Her Excellency the Honourable Ms. Sam Mostyn AC, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia. She was sworn in as Australia's 28th Governor-General on the 1st of July 2024. A businesswoman and community leader, our Governor-General is known for her exceptional service to the Australian community. In 2024, she was appointed a Companion of the Order of Australia for eminent service in the social justice, gender equity, sporting, cultural and business sectors, to reconciliation and to environmental sustainability. For her continued contribution as an advocate for gender inclusion and equality, sustainability and climate change action, our Governor-General was awarded the 2020 United Nations Day Honour Award and an Honorary Doctorate of Laws from the Australian National University in 2018. She chairs various boards, including Beyond Blue, Australians Investing in Women, Foundation for Young Australians, Women's Economic Equality Task Force, the Climate Council, and many, many more. She was the first female commissioner of the Australian Football League for over a decade, where she championed the development of the AFL women's competition. Her Excellency became Australia's second female Governor-General, and she emphasises care, inclusion and progress, aiming to modernise the position by acknowledging Australia's diverse heritage and ensuring national inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Excellency, the Honourable Ms. Sam Mostyn.
Oh goodness, you are wonderful to look out to. It's truly, truly wonderful for me to be standing here listening to you, but to look at you and to be part of the start of your camp. I also want to acknowledge, as previous speakers have, that we gather on the lands of the traditional custodians, the Gadigal and Cammeraygal people of the Eora Nation, and recognise any of those that have connections to the land that may be with us today. I pay my respects to all elders past and present. But thank you for the welcome that was delivered, the acknowledgement that was delivered in Punjabi. There is nothing more Australian to me than an acknowledgement of First Nations culture in the languages of those who came most recently. It's a very significant act that you play in speaking your language, in making that acknowledgement. And we don't hear it often, but I understand that in the Sikh community it is something you practice, and to sit here and listen is very heartwarming and says so much about your connection to the first inhabitants of this land. So I'm very grateful for your Punjabi acknowledgement this morning. I also want to acknowledge the Honourable Michelle Rowland MP, who I've known for a very long time, one of the people I admire and someone that I take great strength from and have watched for a very long time, as someone in the political system who is representing your community here in this electorate. There's no one harder working than Michelle. And in my new role, I'm able to see Michelle doing her work in what's called Executive Council, which is bringing the important matters of state to me to ratify and to often have conversation. And there's no one who comes more prepared for the discussion and understands the topics more than Michelle, just as she does with her community. So I'm really delighted, Michelle, that I'm able to be here with you today in a part of the country and a part of the state that you know so well. Mr. Satwant Singh Kale, President of Sikh Youth Australia, Mr. Jadap Singh, the Commandant, and as we've already heard, I want to thank you for the wisdom in your words of acknowledgement and welcome that we've just listened to. I think to learn that Sikhs are seekers is something all Australians should know more about, and the notion that Sikhs promote oneness, and that's what we're here to do today and what you're doing across the camp. It teaches all of us a moment of reflection about what seeking really is all about. So I thank you for those beautiful words and for your very kind and generous words about me. To the founders of FYA, I hope you are so terribly proud of what you have created. I often think of organisations going through a number of journeys, as we do with our children, until they reach maturity. When they're little, they're playful, they're difficult to control, you don't quite know where they're going. And then suddenly they become junior teenagers and things get a bit better, still make a few mistakes, but they grow. And by the time you're 25, you've matured and you're something very special. And this camp and SYA itself is hitting its maturity. After 25 years, as a visitor for the first time, I can feel what a significant gift it is, a quarter of a century of your commitment as leaders and as founders to SYA that brings us here today. So I acknowledge all of you as founders. There are many distinguished guests who are here who have been acknowledged, so I won't name you all, but there are many, many distinguished people, and I'm so pleased that you're all here. Most importantly, though, I do want to acknowledge the camp volunteers and the participants in the camp. This is all about you and your experience over the 5 days of the camp. Nunki and Ngut, I just want to say how important it is to hear about the story of the camp over generations, to hear Nunki of 3 generations of camp and how it's shaped you as a young woman. Growing up in a generational migrant family is something, again, Australians need to understand more, that there isn't just a simple story of migration. It's complicated, it's international, it has many different roots, and your experience of it, and then finding that you could belong somewhere for the first time at an SYA camp tells us so much about the importance of SYA and this camp. And Ngut, when you talked about finding your place in the world and the fact that you're now a mentor, you're doing the work that was done for you when you first came to this camp, it seems to me that there is much intergenerational leadership that goes on across the SYA camp, across all of you. So thank you for inviting me to your 25th annual summer camp. It's lovely to be here at Collaroy. This is a lush, beautiful, welcoming place on the edge of a gorgeous northern beach, but we're surrounded by bush. Very Aussie. So what a wonderful way for us to start this new year, 2025. You're 25 in 2025. It's very, very special. And it's anniversaries, birthdays, New Year's. They all mark a place in our lives for celebration and reflection, and for setting new directions or reconfirming the direction that we're on. It's time to consult our compasses. I know that's important for Sikhs. Our spiritual and moral guides, our wise elders, and to listen to our inward voices. And whether we're in the first decade of life, as there are many young people here, or in our 9th, because I know there are some elders here, we all still need to ready ourselves for the onward journey. And this is what you are all doing here. You're immersing yourselves in knowledge again, and understanding of, and learning deeply more and more about Sikhism, attending to your own spiritual growth, while making new friends and maybe rekindling old friendships that first started here at a camp. And of course, as I've already seen, having a lot of fun. It's one of the best ways to reflect is to do it with a big smile. Now, I've been your Governor-General just for 6 months. In fact, 6 months and 3 days today. It was 6 months exactly on New Year's Day. And in that time, I've travelled to every state and territory, and I've seen so much of modern Australia. I've also seen much of First Nations Australia, and the two sit so comfortably together. I've observed and listened and reflected. Maybe I've learnt to be a little bit Sikh, and I've gained a renewed sense of who we are, where we've come from, and where it is we want to go and should go. Now, I think you know this story, but wherever I speak, I remind people of the great Australian story. It's shaped by 3 parts: 65,000 years of continuous Indigenous history and culture attached to this extraordinary and vast continent that doesn't share a border with anyone else. What an extraordinary gift. We've had stability, equality, and prosperity that's been assured by the strength of our democracy and our institutions of government that were brought by the British originally, and which still defined the way in which we are a stable economy and a stable democracy. And I, of course, as Governor-General, represent the way in which that system operates as the representative of the head of state. It's also worth reminding ourselves that we live in a country with compulsory voting, an independent electoral commission, and it's the will of the people that determines who leads us, and everyone votes from the time they're 18. That's a gift, something I hope you all reflect on, particularly those of you that will start voting soon and haven't yet voted. But many parts of the world wish that they had compulsory voting and an independent electoral commission that makes sure that the will of the people is always observed and that there is no corruption. It is always about what we want as people that is then really served back to us through leaders like Michelle as members of cabinets and leaders of government. And then, of course, there's the most recent and modern chapter of Australia, and it's filled with optimism, I hope filled mostly with belonging, but of progress. And that's been the underpinning of our population by remarkable multiculturalism. Over half a century of immigration and refugee arrivals, many of you here today. Over 7.5 million migrants to Australia and almost 1 million refugees. 50% of the population of this country was either born somewhere else or parents were born somewhere else. That is one of the enduring strengths of Australia. Should I say it again? No, not at all. That migrant story, of which you are all so much a part, not exclusively, but you tell a big part of it, tells so much of the strength of modern Australia. There is no modern Australia without that story and all of your stories. And so what I see from the very, very privileged vantage point of my job is I get to see what runs through all of this across the country and what it is that binds us together. You've used many words today that I would use also, but the one that I chose to use from the moment I was sworn in as your Governor-General is care. I often talk about care and kindness and respect. Care for each other, care for those who do all the caring for others, care for our extraordinary continent and its environmental beauty, care for our civics and our institutions, and care for the way in which we discuss and debate the issues of our time without falling into judgment or rancour or anger or violence, to be able to argue well, to respect the people whose views we don't necessarily agree with, but to be friends always and to show care in the way we debate. And I believe, and I see it all over the country, and I see it here at this camp, that care alongside kindness and respect is what defines and unites us as Australians. I love the fact that you describe yourself as a proud Aussie and do it with such compassion and such energy, because that's what we want. We want everyone in Australia to feel that sense of attachment and belonging. But what I see and what shines through is care and kindness and respect, and I hope that will help shape our future together with all of you. And as you spend time together here at the camp, I'm absolutely certain now that I've met many of you and felt the spirit of this camp, that it's care that means a lot to you, and that care, you're demonstrating that care and compassion in everything you do as you bring through the youth that will be the future leaders of this country. And so it won't surprise you that when I was sworn in, I made an unstinting promise to all Australians that my entire focus of my term as your Governor-General will be on care and kindness. And I think we have... And over lunch we were talking about days that we like to celebrate, and that Australia Day is soon upon us, later this month. And that is a day that gives us an opportunity to shine a light on what it means to be Australian, and it gives us a chance to celebrate the Australians of the year. I'm very much looking forward to Australia Day to discover the new Australians of the year and to meet those of 2024 who will be there to pass the batons on to the 2025 recipients. But these are people who embody those incredible qualities of being Australian and whose energy and generosity continue to contribute to the strength and character of Australia. Now in 2023, one of those people was Mostyn, one of your community. Amar is a dear friend of mine. Lots of people say they know Amar because you became a phenomenon after you took your Australian of the Year designation. I remember seeing Amar accept his Australian of the Year award from the Arboretum in Canberra. I was watching at home on telly, taking photos of all the winners I could then text and tweet about. And I think, Amar, of all of the acceptance speeches I've ever heard about what it means to be Australian, yours was the very best. You linked First Nations with those that have just arrived in a way that we often struggle to do well and authentically, and you did it as a Sikh, you did it as a Sikh Australian and a true Aussie, and I think you set a tone for what it means to be a true Australian in all your richness and diversity, and you should all be very proud of the way that went around the country to see Amar made an Australian of the Year. And it was the Amar I knew because we'd packed boxes together in a community centre in Marrickville, looking after people who didn't have money for food or for presents. So I knew that there was nothing fake about Amar, seeing that everything that you were being awarded for was in everything you do in every day of your life. And that's what I see here at this camp in all of you. So Amar represents you in that way. But that was a very important moment for those of us that know Amar and to know the work that you've done with Children's for Australia. Now, I think it's really important that we do start applying the principles of Sikhism in Australia, in the Australian context, just as you've suggested, because a place where we are all equal, where selfless service is offered to all who need it, and respect is offered to all who follow other traditions and religions, that to me is a prescription for a great Australia and a great country, and a set of values that I see playing out across the country. We shouldn't be responding to fear and misunderstanding with anger or confusion. We should respond to it with giving and care, just as the Sikh principles teach. I see that in everything that you do, promoting diversity by helping all kinds of people through drought, flood, fires, pandemics in the regions and the margins. The Sikh community is always there. And what a beautiful embodiment of both the Australian character of care and the Sikh tenets of equality, service and respect. So I had written this before I listened to your words, and I was really pleased to think that we have a shared vision that the Sikh values and Australian values are exactly the same, because they're all about equality, service and respect. And that is why you are such a vibrant and valued part of the full Australian story. You are visible and distinctive for very many reasons, and it's mostly though for the care that you show for each other and the wider Australian community. And I've really felt that here at this camp, seeing how much you care about each other and how you invite all of us in to be part of this great story. Clearly, Sikh Youth Australia was founded with care at its core, and that continues to nurture and empower young people in your faith. Helping young Sikhs forge their identity and to find all of your paths, all of you that are here as members of the camp, to discover the gifts that you will give the world and add to the Sikh legacy of peace, understanding and excellence is something that warms my heart deeply. Jadip, you talked about a sacred journey, and that's exactly how this feels. The power of Sangat and the notion of coming together and congregating to then go back out to the world and to do good. And to do that with your faith, to do it with care and kindness, but also to start the year all together and to commit to that means that we're having a very good start to 2025. And it's been an extraordinary privilege for me and my team to be here. The team has loved working with you to make sure I could get here. I think that I'm going to try and be funny, and I'll probably not tell the joke well, but I think it's an extraordinary gift of compassion and care that you give up the 5th test to be here.
It's a joke.
It's a joke. Because I know you were watching on your screens. And I was watching this morning hoping for a better start to the innings for the Indians, but I am going to the 3rd day of the test on Sunday. You will still be here on Sunday. I will think of you all while I'm there at the CG. And I do often wonder at this time of the year who you do actually barrack for, because there must be very interesting...
Aussie.
There we go.
Aussie.
And there it is. We are all one. There is nothing that separates us. So I'm going to finish just by saying, being invited here to witness your big, warm, collaborative hearts, your inclusive community, I am totally filled with optimism for our nation and our future. I know that you deeply care. I know that care is felt all over the country. I'll take the message of this camp and of Sikh values wherever I go and tell that story as part of my commitment. Thank you for having me here today.